Have you ever wondered if there were figures in history whose lives were so filled with miracles and divine interventions that their stories continue to fascinate and inspire our world even centuries later? One such figure, around whom myths and legends swirl, is King Solomon, a chosen one of God, a prophet whose existence blurred the lines between the human and the divine. King Solomon was no ordinary ruler. His wisdom and power were unmatched, his abilities unimaginable to the simple mind. He could communicate with animals, a gift that alone would provide enough material for legends. But Solomon went even further. He controlled the winds, commanded djinn, and through his divine wisdom, made the impossible possible. His wealth and treasures were so legendary that even today, countless treasure hunters seek the hidden riches that once belonged to his vast kingdom. But how did it come to this? How could a human possess such extraordinary abilities and thereby shape a whole world that still reveres him today as the epitome of divine wisdom and power? The stories surrounding King Solomon are not just tales from a long past era, but rather a source of inspiration showing what is truly possible when man harmonizes with the divine. In this video from Myth Researcher, we aim to shed light on this fascinating figure. We delve into the world of King Solomon, a prophet and king whose life and deeds had the power to bend the laws of nature. His story is an ode to the sublime, a journey through a time when miracles were part of everyday life, and a man could bridge heaven and earth. Stay tuned for a gripping narrative that transports you to a time when the impossible became reality. Stick with us here and discover the incredible story of King Solomon, one of the most fascinating characters in human history. How did a young prince become a legend whose echo resonates in our time? The story of King Solomon, also known as the son of David in the scriptures, begins not with his coronation but with the spiritual and moral legacy left by his father. A legacy based on unshakable faith and a deep understanding of divine laws. King Solomon didn't just inherit the role of ruler over a physical realm, he inherited a spiritual leadership role that came with extraordinary abilities and a responsibility unmatched. From the outset, he was destined to rule, not just over humans, but over every creature, the winds, and even the hidden realms of the djinn. King Solomon's life was a continuous act of miracles. It's told how he could understand the language of animals, an ability that still amazes us today. This divinely inspired dialogue between man and animal symbolizes a harmony with nature that is often lost in the modern world. But King Solomon's conversations were not limited to the feathered and the four-legged. He had dominion over the djinn, those mystical beings that found their place in pre-Islamic mythology and then in the Quran. This control over the djinn is not merely a demonstration of power, but rather a sign of divine selection and the wisdom to use this power for the good of faith and creation. Sources tell of how Solomon controlled the winds, making them travel at his wish. A miracle mentioned in the Quran in Surah 34:12, and to Solomon we subjected the wind, blowing forcefully, proceeding by his command toward the land which we had blessed. This passage highlights the incredible guidance and control King Solomon exercised in his divinely inspired reign. As the son of David and successor to a great king, King Solomon was from the start in the spotlight of divine favor. Yet it was his humility, wisdom, and unwavering faith that made him one of the most fascinating and inspiring figures in the sacred scriptures. The beginnings of his reign were marked by wonders and signs of divine power that confirmed him as a true chosen of God, a prophet and king, whose life teaches us what's possible when man stands in perfect harmony with the divine. Among all the wonders and supernatural events that surrounded the life of King Solomon, there's one particular work that, through its mere physical presence, conveys the act of the divine on earth, the Al-Aqsa Mosque. This temple stands not just as a monumental edifice, but as a marvel of architecture and a sign of divine grandeur and wisdom. It's said that the djinn, under the guidance of King Solomon, contributed to the construction of this extraordinary temple. Their superhuman powers and abilities were harnessed to build a structure admired for its beauty and perfection to this day. The temple serves not just as a house of worship, but also as a timeless testament to the harmonious connection between the human, the divine, and the mystical worlds. Like anyone endowed with great power, King Solomon faced numerous trials and temptations. His story is not just one of immense fame and divine favor, but also one of humility and steadfast loyalty to the principles of his faith. His struggle against magic and the myriad temptations that crossed his path attest to Solomon's deep understanding and enlightenment. It was this inner strength and wisdom that allowed him to triumph over every form of deception and falsehood. The teachings on truth conveyed through his life and deeds serve as a guide for all believers to find the right path in moments of uncertainty. These sections of our video not only paint the picture of a king, but of a prophet whose life was interwoven with divine trials and miracles. They invite us to explore the depths of his wisdom and admire the silent majesty of his achievements. In the vast and layered history that surrounds the life and work of King Solomon, there's an encounter that stands out in significance and impact: the meeting with Queen of Sheba. Their story is not just a tale of diplomacy and divine providence, but also a shining example of transformation through faith and knowledge. Queen of Sheba ruled the land of Saba, a powerful and wealthy nation whose people worshipped the sun. Her world and that of King Solomon could not have been more different, yet fate planned for their paths to cross. The story begins with a small but meaningful event. A hoopoe, a bird among Solomon's servants, brought news of a distant land where the sun was worshipped instead of the one true God. Astonished and concerned by this news, Solomon decided to act. He wrote a letter, which the hoopoe was to bring to the Queen of Sheba, inviting her and her people to embrace the true faith and abandon idolatry. When Queen of Sheba received this enigmatic letter, she decided to visit King Solomon to learn more about the man who sent such a message. Her arrival at Solomon's court was an event of epic significance. Before her arrival, however, Solomon had her throne brought to him through the abilities given to him, an act that deeply moved the Queen of Sheba and further sparked her curiosity. As she entered Solomon's court and found her throne there before she herself arrived, she recognized the true power and wisdom of Solomon. This unexpected and impossible encounter of her worldly power with the divine strength Solomon possessed opened her heart and mind to the message of the true faith. Another symbol inseparably linked to Solomon's story is his ring, an object that served not only as a sign of royal authority and power, but also as an instrument through which many of his miracles were performed. The ring, bearing the name of God, symbolized Solomon's divine legitimacy as a ruler and prophet. The meeting between Queen of Sheba and King Solomon remains an inspiring tale of overcoming differences through wisdom, faith, and the realization that there are forces far beyond our understanding of power and influence. The death of King Solomon marks not just the end of an extraordinary life filled with divine wonders and unfathomable wisdom, but also a turning point that signaled the end of an era. His death is shrouded in a veil of mystery that raises questions and invites various interpretations to this day. King Solomon, whose life and deeds are deeply rooted in the sacred scriptures, was portrayed as a key figure whose actions and decisions carried deep spiritual and historical significance. His legacy and deeds are an integral part of the religious texts and teachings that provide guidance to believers worldwide. One of the most recounted mysteries about his death is the manner in which his passing remained unnoticed by his subjects, both humans and djinn working for him. It's said that King Solomon, up to the last moments of his life, sat on his throne, supported by a wooden staff. His death was only known when the staff was eaten by termites and broke, causing his body to fall to the ground. This narrative symbolizes not only the inevitable course of nature and the end of all earthly things, but also the fact that even the greatest among kings ultimately submit to the will of the Creator. Even today, many search for the treasures King Solomon is said to have left behind, including his legendary ring that granted him control over the djinn. Yet, his true legacy is not found in material wealth, but in the teachings and wisdom he left for humanity. King Solomon's story and the spiritual teachings it conveys remain a shining example of faith, wisdom, and the quest for divine enlightenment. His life, as astonishingly and captivatingly portrayed in the sacred scriptures, reminds us that the true treasures of life lie in the pursuit of knowledge, understanding, and living in harmony with the Creator. Thank you for joining us on this fascinating journey through the life of King Solomon. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel Myth Researcher and activate the bell icon to not miss any of our explorations into the world of mysticism, history, and spiritual wisdom. Until next time, stay curious and inspired.